welcome to the Corpus Christi Songwriter Podcast. I'm Jules.
I'm Jimmy.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Libby.
Hey, Libby Koch.
Hey, happy to have
Hi,
Libby
fellas.
with us. Thanks for being here, Libby.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Virtually out in the world.
Virtually.
So I'm trying to be a little more professional these days with this podcast, and so I was doing a little bit of
Don't you dare.
a deep dive into you basically, and I really love your website, how it's set up with all these quotes. And,
It is awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I just want to start by reading some of these quotes here.
No, I'll be bloody.
Well, let's see here. Okay, so my favorites are "You're a feisty Texas songbird" from the country music people, but
Nice.
honestly, the one that really got my attention was "Like a bowl of gumbo and a mug of Shiner Bock at the end of a hard rainy day."
That's great.
That's from Mike Seeley at No Depression. So all of that kind of sums up who you are in a nutshell, Libby Koch. But for those who may not know who you are, how about you tell us who you are?
Yeah, sure. I am a singer-songwriter originally from Houston. And now I live outside of Austin, outside of a small town called Bastrop with my husband, Chuck Hawthorne, who is also a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, he is.
That's a short version.
All right. And you have played our festival. This will be the third time?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. I think by the time this airs, it'll be like literally the next day.
Oh, nice.
So,
excellent.
it will be
Well, I look forward
imminent.
to seeing y'all tomorrow.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Yeah.
See you.
Okay, but Libby, you didn't say though, which I think is kind of fascinating about you and that I love about you, is that you are also a lawyer. And
I am.
How do you balance that, Libby? I've always wondered, you do kind of Zoom stuff or how do you do it?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's tricky, and it's something that has kind of evolved organically over the past, I guess, 15 years since I originally quit my lawyer day job to pursue music full time, which I did, and then was like, wow, I'm broke and massively in debt, and I've got to do something to, I was playing like 150 plus dates a year and just doing everything I can. You guys know what it's like. I mean, doing the hustle. And so then I started, I got a call from a friend of mine who had somebody in their office going on maternity leave. And they're like, can you come help us for 6 weeks or 3 months, I guess? And I said, yes, I can. And so then I started kind of working with this legal services company doing part-time stuff, here and there. They were basically like a booking agent for contract lawyers. So I've been kind of doing that past, 10, 12 years or so. And then a couple years ago, went to work for a friend in-house with his companies. And so now I work like 20 hours a week on that. So it's like 50-50. But I found that it makes the music better because it like accentuates the joyfulness of it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. So it is a delicate dance, right? Like I literally was late to this podcast because I had to finish sending a work email.
I thought so. I thought you were working.
That's exactly. I was working.
I was like,
yeah.
I bet she's working.
I was. But then, like last Thursday and Friday, I was off playing shows. So, it all kind of works out. And I enjoy doing both, which I didn't enjoy the lawyering before I started doing music. And now I enjoy the music more now that I'm lawyering some against, which I don't know. It's a weird thing. Maybe it's feeding the right brain, left brain or something at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Were you not lawyering or were you not doing any music when you were lawyering full time, Libby? I guess probably hard to.
Well, yes. Really, so what happened is I actually went to law school in Nashville. And that's when I figured out, like, I had people in Nashville being like, hey, you're good at this. You should do the thing. And I was like, I cannot do the thing. I've been working really hard for this law degree. And, I need to pay off my law school debts and I have a job.
Yeah, normally songwriting, performing doesn't really pay off law school debts.
Right. Yeah.
No,
So then,
or
like,
any debts.
or any
Or
debt.
any debts,
You can't
yeah,
get more usually. But
Good Lord, if it pays for the groceries, we're lucky.
we're super lucky, right? And that's a beautiful thing too. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I think any way you can figure out to make it work as an artist and a songwriter and make the kind of music you love, like, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Before you got to Vanderbilt University, is correct? And before then, you that's where you've decided to start exploring songwriting professionally. But
professionally, I'd done it.
Yeah, but it was kind of like a hobby before that.
Yeah, I started in high school, I guess. I was really I was a super dork, guys. Like, I was really involved in the church choir.
Hey,
and that's how I got my start.
You're talking to three dorks too. So.
Heck yeah. And so that's where I learned how to sing harmony and play guitar and kind of all of that. And my friend Taylor Davis, whose dad was the choir director, Sid, he was like, "Hey, do you want to write some songs sometime?" I was like, "I don't know how to write songs." He said, "Yes, you do. Come with me." So my first songwriting experience was actually a co-write. So he and I wrote like almost an album of songs together, and then I just kind of took it off on my own. And so it's really cool. He's like, he's a real life, like a composer. Like he drafts choral music and stuff now. And
amazing.
Like, really cool stuff. Like, this choral group just recorded his like a Christmas album that was out on Decca Classics. It just came out. Like, really, he's doing really cool stuff. So,
oh wow, that's really cool. But yeah, you so basically after all of that, you got into songwriting yourself. What was that process like? Like discovering your own sound, your own vibe, and your own process.
For me, it was always, and playing guitar was always, for me, I would play what I would want to hear. I took like some group lessons early on, but I never really, I would just sit in my room as a moody teenager and just play guitar.
Same.
Exactly, right? Like, obsessed with it.
Don't all teenagers do that, or
they all do? Yeah, I don't know. All teenage guitar players do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
With your hair hanging down in your eyes. And just
yes, exactly. Like,
strumming.
leave me alone, Mom. And then just kind of pouring out all those all that teenage angst into paper. I actually found it's over here somewhere. Oh, yeah, here it is. Like the folder of all the little songs I wrote when I was like in junior high and high school. And
so good.
That's so amazing.
So I have this vision of going through them and being like, seeing if I can remember any of these melodies and seeing if I can, like.
No, I brought this up on the last podcast.
We talked about this.
My sons brought over this gigantic binder, like
really?
Like half a foot tall of just old lyrics and old songs and everything. And I thought it was lost forever. It was like I got divorced and I just never saw it again. And then they brought it over and I'm been slowly going through it. And it's just
awesome. What is this, Dad?
Yeah, I'm like, don't read that.
This thing.
Don't read that.
You should read that.
Yeah, so it really started for me like as a form of like therapy. And songwriting has always been therapy for me. It's like getting that stuff out that you can't like process in your head or heart, right? And getting it out on paper and putting it into a song. And for me, songwriting was super private in those early years. Like I went to A&M for undergrad and played a few like coffee shop gigs, but I mostly played, covers of late 90s, early aughts kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. But I played a few of my songs. Totally. Oh, absolutely. Stay, you know it.
Oh, so good.
Of course. Yeah, so then I kept writing in law school, and then a buddy of mine who was getting a master's degree at Belmont in audio engineering while I was in law school said, "Hey, I need somebody to I need a songwriter to record their songs. I was like, I need my songs recorded. And so that ended up becoming my first record, Redemption. And that was recorded over the period of several years. And then I put that out myself, like as a lawyer in Houston, and started playing gigs in Houston. That started kind of picking up, got my first gig at the Mucky Duck. That was my first big break. And then, the economy kind of hit the crapper, and and lawyers were getting fired left and right. And I met with a mentor of mine, and I was like, what should I do? Nobody's hiring. And she said, why don't you take a year off and do music? And I was like, what? And then I thought about it, and I was like, that's insane. Yeah. And I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then I did get fired. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to do this.
Well, this solved the problem.
It solved the problem. So yeah, I guess that was about 15 years ago. So, but the thing is, I knew I was going to do music, so they were like firing me, and I was trying not to like smile.
You're like, oh, it's so sad.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so upset about this.
What kind of law do you practice?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I draft contracts. So like,
nice.
I'm not a litigator, not a trial lawyer. Like, can't get you out of a DUI.
I was trying to picture you in court, but just take that away from me. It's fine.
No, to do that, you really have to be all about like conflict and enjoy the adversarial way of being. And that's just not me. I'm like, can't we just all get along and make a deal that makes everybody happy, protects everybody reasonably well? And sometimes that works out, but that's usually my attitude as a lawyer. I like to, and I just like writing, and I like writing contracts too. And there's some parallels there between drafting contracts and writing songs, which are kind of funny.
That's the first.
You should write that out and tell us that. It was fun watching you and Terry Klein talk shop, like lawyer shop. I was like, it's like a whole different universe. Because Terry Klein also, guys, that's coming down from the fest was a lawyer. Yeah. And seeing them, it's like seeing two, like, I don't know, people, and you suddenly realize they're aliens. They're not like, they're like from this totally different practice. I was like, oh my God, what is this?
I need to hear this conversation. I personally would not immediately think, drafting a contract and writing a song, same thing. But that's
there
intriguing.
Are lots of parallels. You got to make sure everything's in the right place. Economy of words is very important.
Yes.
Make sure every word counts. Don't say something twice that you can say better once. I mean, these are all things all tools you put in the songwriting toolbox, you put in the contract drafting toolbox.
Methinks we have someone to teach a workshop one time.
Get Terry to do it with me, and I'll think about it.
When did you
that's a good idea.
Libby, when did you, so to go hand in hand with that, when did you fall in love with writing? Like when is can you pinpoint a time that you...
This is going to sound so, I don't know. I think it was like second grade, Mrs. Shopper's class.
I knew you'd know the teacher's name or remember.
Yeah, right? Like, isn't it funny? Like, she, every Monday morning, would have you sit and write what you did over the weekend. And I just loved that. And I think that's where I caught the bug. It's funny how, like, I haven't thought of that in years. And you asked that question, it just took me right there. Good question.
Nice. Yeah. I had a teacher, all of my English teachers, I could name the ones that were really influential, but I had one in, like, I think it was a freshman in high school, and I'd already liked writing, but this lady introduced me, she's an old hippie, and she introduced me to the band. She had the band, like the second self-titled album, she let me take it home, and I was like, what the hell is this? These mountain men singing these really literate songs, and like, and just like, that opened up my brain, and it's kind of tied with the writing and the music and that time period. So,
I had an English teacher. This was probably third grade for me, actually, where she caught me writing stories. Like, I was just never paying attention in class, just writing my own little stories. And so she started inviting me to read the stories in front of the class. It was the first time that I had an audience engage in front of me. So that experience alone changed my life. But then she also sent I'm a writer, guys, sent me to the 5th grade class where there was a student teacher there, and they would I would have like an hour every afternoon working with a student teacher in 5th grade, just working on writing and just focusing on writing and English, and
That's
having
awesome.
those experiences that young, I think changed the course of my life.
Oh yeah, big time. Very cool.
Man,
Sorry,
I was way different as a kid, man. I was like,
Tell us.
man, my teacher took away my notebook once that I was writing. I had this habit of like cribbing as a kid, maybe, like just Home Alone came out and I was like, what if they made Home Alone 2 in Japan? And I was trying to write that. But
Yes.
but like so I don't know, but I picked up Dante even then, and Dante's been a constant sort of, and maybe that was the first time that, so I started kind of like, oh, what if I wrote my own story about what it would be like to walk through hell? And it's like 2nd grade, you're like, I imagine my teacher was kind of like, talk about this Julio kid, this is, he's kind of, but my mom came down and was like, give my kid back his notebook, man. She was an English teacher, she's like, my kid can write about anything he wants. And so from there, writing has always been kind of a weird process of like being edgy and also concealing and not necessarily releasing everything you have, but always having writing sort of stored away that's like as a body of work ready to, just to drop at times, whether it's a really long post or whether it's like, an album that you just sit on for a while or something, or, but yeah, no, I mean, that's I think we all fall in love with writing as a kid, and what's coming up for me in this conversation is that like I lived in Nashville for about 10 years and I spent a lot of time near the Starbucks there by Vanderbilt and stuff, and there was a place called Charlie's Cheeseburgers near there.
Cheeseburger
Charlie's, man. Oh my God. Like it's only like Nashvillians that like know about that place. Yeah. That Cheeseburger Charlie's, man, where you get the extra spice thrown on your burger. Cause it's just like, yeah.
Man, I totally forgot about that place.
Yeah. I just like that. Great cheeseburgers. But like Nashville's not I've said that, like I didn't make any records as a solo artist when I lived in Nashville. I felt like Nashville was not a place where a budding artist perhaps might choose to, maybe it's a place you move to after like 3 records or something, but maybe so I just wonder I don't really meet too many people who like, maybe start their whole process and journey in Nashville. And I can say that I did that as an engineer, but I didn't start down the road as a solo artist until then. So maybe could you speak about your own experience in Nashville with all that comes with like that city, and beginning bravely just this whole arc into it's wild to like think of even trying to do that in that environment, Well,
I think to be fair, I was in kind of an idyllic bubble in a sense because I was in school, and it wasn't just school, it was grad school, right? So like, I don't know. I grew up in West Houston and then went to A&M and had a pretty sheltered childhood and adolescence. And then moving to Nashville is just where I found myself just personally. And I think the music had a lot to do with that. I mean, the cool thing about law school is that like the cool thing and the tough thing about law school is there's only one test per semester for each class. So while that makes studying for finals really, really hard, it makes like the first part of the year really, really fun. Because if you do, get your reading done, you can go party in Nashville and hang out in Nashville and go listen to music. I mean, I saw Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings at the Station Inn like 5 times. I saw Ray LaMontagne at 3rd and Lindsley. I was there at the Ryman when Patty Griffin's live record was recorded. I mean, I was just in Nashville in a supremely cool time from 2002 to 2005. Really kind of the tail end of the alt country, when you picked up No Depression on the magazine racks at Tower Records on West End. And I mean, it was such a cool time to be there as a young person with, student loans, paying for everything that I'm still paying for now. And, having a really great group of friends who love the same kind of music, who I'm still great friends with. And I was playing music for fun. It's not like, maybe what's different about my experience is that I didn't go to Nashville to try to like make it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just kind of making that record with my friend because I didn't know how else to make a record. I mean, home studio days weren't quite there yet. Now I did go back after making, I guess, so after that first Nashville record, which was just me and my guitar and a harmonica, and like I sang harmonies on my own stuff, right? But then the next record I made on a home studio myself. And then I made 2 records with Jack Saunders in Houston. And then I went to Nashville to make a serious Nashville record where you have the studio musicians and you prep like Nashville number charts for them, and they've never heard the song before, and play them the song one time, and then you're all in the room. And
was that Just Go On?
Just Move On. Yeah.
Just Move On. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
That's me not looking at my notes. I apologize.
No, it's all right. And that one, for some weird, it's a weird distribution thing, and it's not online right now. I've been doing the work to get it back on, but it's like I'm at the phase where they ask you, are these the exact master files and the exact artwork that you initially submitted when you first distributed the record? Otherwise, you're going to lose all your streaming sets. And I'm so stressed out about it.
What the hell?
I've been like sitting on it for months. So I've got to get this on my to-do list.
Good Lord. That sucks.
Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, I know. But making that record like the Nashville way was a truly exhilarating experience. And then after that, the guy that produced the record, really kind of tried to shop it around and make some things happen. And, definitely I'm proud of that record. And, a lot of things almost happened with that record. But I mean, the truth of it is I ran out of money. I had meetings with fancy publicists and that sort of thing. And they were like, all right, cool. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to run your social media. We just need $2,500 a month. And I was like, say what? I was like, I'm lucky if I make $2,500 a month just doing music.
And that's why I love Adam Dawson.
I know, right? So, and I guess I was naive that I had gotten to a point where they really expected me to have investors, and I just didn't have it. So, but I'm super happy with, I don't know. I don't know that I would have liked it if those things had happened. I dig where my career is now. I like what I'm doing. I like making music in Texas. I like being a Texas songwriter. I like being part of, and I think this is what you guys are doing, such a cool thing with, not just the festival, but also, your organization is carrying on the tradition of the Texas songwriter. I mean, I truly believe it's like an American literary art form. And I feel like we're doing what we can to keep it all alive. I mean, commercial success at the scale that it used to, and in the days of Nancy Griffith and Guy and Towns and Lucinda isn't what it used to be. But I truly believe that we can still have vibrant careers and make really good music and really good art and live really I just think we're all doing great things, and I'm thankful for you guys for what you're doing, and for for example, if you're listening to this and you're into Texas songwriting, you're dumb if you're not at the festival. Yeah. I mean, it's just y'all put together such a killer lineup, and it's such a great combination of regional of just songwriters from a lot of different backgrounds and levels, and then a lot of really great local Corpus Christi Gulf Coast songwriters. And I just think y'all are doing it right. So high five.
Thank you.
There's no shortage of good songwriters.
Yeah, we didn't pay you to say
true.
that, right? Just
No,
yeah.
no, I don't.
I will buy you a beer.
Absolutely. And you know I love beer.
Same.
So
Libby, when did you do? Oh, sorry, Jimmy.
No. It's fine.
Well,
it's fine.
Somewhere around that time you did the Blue Rock, right? The Blue Rock, the live album.
That was after the Nashville record.
That album is killer. The Nashville record's awesome too, but the Blue Rock is just so like, it's just awesome to hear you like it's so live and so like it's a great record.
Thank you. Adam Dawson says that's the one he thinks sounds the most like me, and I
think so too.
I tend to agree with that. And that was a cool experience. So that first record we made in Nashville, just me and my guitar, when it was 10 years old in 2019, I got a band together and recorded that at Blue Rock, and that was so fun. Because it's like, do you guys do this when you write a song? Like, yeah, you're playing it just you and your guitar, but you can hear all the other stuff too.
Yeah, of course.
Like that's the way that Redemption record was for me, and so the live version of that is really the way I'd always heard it in my head.
Filling it out, yeah. Get to flesh it out and
was like that
in the coolest place.
I know.
Was that live version? Do I have this right? Is that was that produced by Patterson Barrett?
Yeah. Patterson. Who has also played the festival. And,
2020
he's
played
awesome.
the festival.
Yeah, and he plays in my band, and he's just an unbelievable musician. And he was kind of the band leader and put together that band. And it's a bunch of guys that he's played with for, like since, Armadillo days in Austin. So that was a really cool experience. And that was really fun. Like, those guys have played together for so many years. They were so tight. That's why it was so easy to do it. Like we did a couple of rehearsals and some pre-production, and we just went in and did all of that in one take, except for one song that I started to play, but I hadn't unmuted my direct line. So I was like, we got to start over. No. Yeah. And then the drummer just kind of kept the beat, and then we just, Patterson counted it off again, and we just ripped it. So
nice.
And that was a fun thing to do with it. We did that with a live audience too, which helped pay for it, which was a cool thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we sold tickets to that. I don't remember if I did it for $50 or $100, but filled up the room at Blue Rock, and that paid for the recording. I think it must have been $100 a ticket. But
so cool.
That's amazing.
I highly recommend doing something like that because, as you all know, and we talked about it, commercial. It's hard to come up with the money to cut a record and then to put it out and do the thing. So I thought it was kind of that particular project was a good opportunity to try something different. I was like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it did. And it was fun to have that studio audience and to really feed off of their energy and the band's energy. I think that showed up in the record. So.
Very much so. That's in 2020. Was that that was the first festival you played? Was 2020, correct? Our festival.
Oh yeah. Because it was right before the whole world shut down. We didn't realize at the time it was a fun thing we were going to do.
I just remember during that time I had your live album kind of on repeat. So that was, I really liked the energy of that one. Thanks. I see Jules stewing over here. Do you have any?
Hi, Jules.
He has thoughts.
Yeah, he has
You're
thoughts.
thinking on things.
It's just, there's always I think it's, I think in terms of it's like a three-legged bar stool of you got to have a bit of a day job, career trajectory, and then you have to have the art, and then
or a rich dad,
or a rich dad, right?
Nepotism is always the way to go.
But there is kind of a balance too that you've mentioned, and sometimes all the time in the world leads to no urgency for generating material, and then sometimes having only a set amount of time makes you sort of maximize what little time you have and is generative, and so I just there's so many things I could ask you, but given that this is a songwriting podcast, man, you mentioned earlier about how you were kind of happy with the both sides of your brain being fed by lawyering and by doing the music thing. And like, under what conditions do you find yourself most prolific, I suppose?
It's hard for me. That is one of the challenges about that kind of swapping back and forth with it, is that it's hard for me to, it's hard for me to carve out creative time. So what I need to do, what I find that I have to do, is be super intentional about doing it. And typically what works best for me is like really making myself go somewhere for like a weekend or a week with like, so like this is my little magic notebook with like my planner, and then it has like my lawyer notes, and then it has my music business stuff, and then it has like all my songwriting journals. So then I can kind of swap them out when they get full. So nice. You get all the little bits of ideas, and you've got the voice memos on your phone, and then I kind of like just collect those in little bits. And occasionally like a fully formed song will just pop out one day, but usually I have to like go just get in the groove, and it takes me a few days, and I'll bust out several songs. But I really have to like set aside time to do that. I think Jana Pochop and I are going to go do something like that. Next month, we're trying to get on the calendar to go to Colorado and do that. So
take me with you.
Yes.
I know, right?
Yeah, Jana's playing the festival too.
Yes. She's so cool, man.
She is. She's someone I'd like to co-write with one of these days.
Me too.
I just love her style.
Trying to get her to do this. I think she's like one of the most brilliant, cerebral, like
she's
nerdy,
her
best,
lyrics are so good. Yes.
Yeah.
I
always
think
takes you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No. She her lyrics are just take you to a place you never expect to go. Yeah. That's all I was going to say. All right, Garrett, you can.
Oh no, I was going to say she's so evocative. Like she's so good about kind of narrating a story, and it kind of, like just the way she like utilizes juxtapositions to make these new kind of interesting things. We've kind of talked about that a little bit, but then I think, so what's interesting about all these podcasts, and Libby, going back to what you're saying, is like, if you're a songwriter, you kind of like, none of us really get to do this full time and make all the money that we should be making, but like making a practice of it, like it's a thing that it seems like, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the practice is the same. You just have to do it. You have to
gotta figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Like Jules, I envy your ability to, to like get that bulk of work done and like have it on deck. Like I've got nothing on deck.
You know what, man? It's like, thank you for mentioning that, but I'll tell you that I think it's an odd type of discipline that I've sought to try to cultivate. And what I mean by that is that like, there's like a content incontinence that an artist feels when they have the content.
Title of the episode.
They must release it. But when you release something, I feel like I don't take a gig unless it has a certain like. Okay, so like I have a system, man. It's like a scale of 1 to 10. Am I making money? Is it good for my career? Will I have a good time? Scale of 1 to 10 on all three of those. If a score's above 15, I'll do it.
Okay. See, mine's the same thing, but the answer, I have to say yes to 2 out of those 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless it's just a lot.
Right. So the point is that like, if you're going to release something, it's got to score high on similar metrics of like, is it strategic, tactical? Is good timing, whatever, and sometimes you're just like, fuck it, surprise EP day.
Yeah,
but he did that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll do stuff like that without a shred of marketing, because I'm like, okay, I can generate stuff like I do. I generate a lot of stuff for various people, So because it's like this. If we all have to be a singular promoter, artist, writer, everything, right? There's a lot on the modern artist's shoulders, right? If we all have to do that, then we all should have some way of generating and keeping on hand something Now, I'm not saying that I have anything now, right? I've released singles and album release now and stuff, like that. They could have been more strategic with singles or whatever ahead of time. But that's just, there's a certain, I don't roll that way. It's anyway, but there's a system and then sometimes there's not a system.
Well, here's the thing. There are no rules anymore. What you want, to borrow a phrase from Jana, as long as it feels right. Right?
Right.
It feels right to you. And I think that's so the flip side of the songwriter economy or lack thereof is that just do what you want. It's art, man. Throw some spaghetti up against the wall, see what sticks. If you're making the music that you want to make, I figure we ought to be doing it without compromise. To the highest extent possible, and doing what floats your boat, what lights your fire.
It's kind of like if you go. So one of the things that I love Kerrville, and one of the things that always upset me about Kerrville is that I would hear these people around the campfire playing these gorgeous songs, and then they'd give me their album, and it's this overproduced, produced for this radio play that no longer exists. What are we gearing these recordings to? You can do whatever you want. We're not having to gear towards AM radio or anything anymore. There's nothing. Do what you want. So
right. I've decided I'm not going to make another record that doesn't feel 100% like me. Why would I do anything other than that?
There's no point.
No, I will not.
We don't have giant record labels.
Have anybody else tell us what our music ought to sound like.
Well, I will tell you just as because I've been thinking and stewing on this particular issue about in today's ever more congested media ecosystem, as we release digital content out into what seems like a digital ether, as we just release and things get more congested and there are, I found myself today, I produce another podcast called Working People, and we make these little videos with every episode that go out. And one thing I realized was subtitles are a whole different game now, right? Subtitles are they must be word per word. It must be sing-along style with a small motion added in by Adobe After Effects in order to achieve more eyes and attention per minute, which is what makes content and separates it from content. So what I think about that in terms of a record, that one gets to feeling that's what they are contributing, even out to the digital ether, is somewhat inadequate if it's not with things that are details like subtitles that bounce. And so I sit back and I think about the record that I released that's just me and one guy in a room. Yes. And I think about some of the other guys that I admire and that do the same stuff that are just one guy or two guys in a room. And then I hear what you say, Libby, about how the rules are, there are no rules except the rules that you implement, and you do what feels authentic, or do what feels good, and maybe the rule is don't make a record if it doesn't feel good. Don't do anything that doesn't feel good,
Well, and I'll augment what you're saying there, that okay, sure. If you're going to play, if you want to play by the rules of there are rules to maximizing content viewers. And what you're saying with tracking subtitles and stuff. But, but if you don't want to play by that game, you don't have to. Right. No. I personally feel like I'm too old to figure out that stuff all of a sudden. I don't know. One day I woke up, was over 40, and I was like, well, that's over. Learning new things, I'm out.
There's so much though. But to go along with all this, Jules, this is a legitimate thing. And it's also a reoccurring, it's a, what's the word? The Spotification of so the whole idea now with artists is that there is more content. Just keep pumping out content. It does the actual quality of it is not so much what matters. You just got to keep pumping it out. You got to stay relevant. You got to make such and such videos per day, and you got to it's antithetical to the whole creative process. If you want me to put out garbage, what is he saying, Tommy Boy? If you want me to shit in a box, I'll shit in a box.
Right. To what end? Right. To what end? So
three-legged bar stool yet again, it's there's got to be a balance here between, contemporary experience expectations of in terms of content release frequency, what feels in terms of frequency that it's sustainable and authentic for you as an artist.
Authentic, yep.
You know, I use that word, and like I say, I also hesitate to use the word authenticity because I have my own critiques of that word as well.
Loaded.
But yeah, it's loaded. I would, you know, but part of it is that, like, I wish to play this game. I want to make albums that are big, and you know, and we all do, right? And but more so than like a financial restraint of an independent artist, it's more like we wish to create the albums that are similar in style and method to the people that came before us, and to honor this sort of tradition that we are paying homage to with every bit of our fiber of being, you know, and so that's. Because more and more I hear people say, oh, we're doing low budget records now, where we go and we spend a day, we do it, and that's the record. And sometimes that's really beautiful. Like, you know, you get someone like a Robert Ellis and Courtney Hartman in a room and they do the Dear John record, and a tribute to John Hartford band. That's an incredible record. And they did it with one mic between them. And so you get these really beautiful gems.
I haven't heard that record, and I need to, clearly.
But
that sounds awesome.
Me too. But I feel like there's a danger here in that, like, you know, because of not just economic constraints, but because of the demand of frequency of content release, I'm hearing more musicians, and I wouldn't say that they intend on lowering the quality of their output, but I would say that the way that they're going about creating art is shifting in a way that affects the music itself that might be presented otherwise.
Well, and it drives me nuts in that way because, like, you know, like, let's say the expectation is to release an album or an EP or at least that many songs per year. I mean, let's look back at some level that dilutes the art, because, you know, you think about, like, the career of, like, truly great songwriters that we love. How many records, like, let's say you're lucky enough to have a 30-year career, right? How many albums should that be?
Right.
Like, I think it's absurd pressure that, I mean, if you want a really great album, and I want to make great albums, right? I'm still an album geek. I still think it's an art form that I really love to consume and to produce. So, you know, how many records over a career is a great body of work? Is it?
I mean, that fluctuates from genre to genre too.
That's true.
Like, we can't all be Prince. Just a brilliant album a year for
the early pop days, you know, Beatles, Beach Boys, they all put out several records in a year. And just because that's kind of where we're heading now. It's
because it's kind of come back around, which is weird.
Because it's so oversaturated, we have to keep doing in order to, you know, stay afloat.
Relevant. Yeah.
Well, they all used to do singles, you know, on 45s where you had the A side and the B side. And I think, you know, maybe you could draw that corollary there, but I don't know. To me, I think the overarching answer for me personally is, if I get too bogged down in the idea that I'm not doing enough, I'm not going to do. And because I'm going to get anxious and I'm going to focus so much on what I'm not doing that I'm not going to do what I need to be doing. So to me, it's always been, again, going back to that balance thing, doing what it takes to keep getting to do this. Right?
That's the right. Yeah, that feels right.
Yeah, I mean, doing what it takes, like, and not just from a standpoint of, like, making your audience and your listeners and your fans, like the people who come out to see you, happy, but, like, making yourself happy, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the sweet spot. Right. And again, tricky, but isn't it all?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I think eventually you just kind of, I don't know, I've gotten to the point where you just write what you like, and eventually people will catch up or they don't.
Right.
I mean,
the people who dig it will find it. And
they'll find it. Yeah, they'll find it. The trick is getting it in front of them, you know, getting there. And that's, I've come to the realization that a lot of it is just playing shows at places that are kind of that you're kind of like strategically like, this is a show where people are listening. Like those shows are few and far between. And man, the listening room shows are really like, I realized this last year is like, this is what I want to keep doing. Do I want to truck to a place with my whole PA system and play for 4 hours and basically be the background to somebody's great Friday night, which is great for them, but I'd rather have a much
well, and I'm glad that I had those gigs 10 years ago where I was getting better because so much of it is doing the work to get better.
Yeah.
And putting in those hours and paying those dues, I think is really important. And also learning how to deliver a song, learning how to entertain folks, learning how to look around and figure out when folks aren't having fun and how to change that. You learn that through those 4-hour gigs.
Yep.
And you can't trade that for anything else. Now, do I still want to do those now after doing this for 15 years? No.
Oh, come on.
But I will say that I love playing with my band for 3-hour shows. Like I'll do that all day. And if I could afford it and find enough people to pay us enough money for me to pay my guys and gals enough money to do that, I would play with a band every show. I love that the most.
That's pretty awesome.
I do miss playing with full band. I used to do several band shows a year, but this day and age is just Yash and Yemi or you and me pointing at each other. But
y'all must have great bass players.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Here we go.
Jules' reoccurring hatred of bass players are the rhythm section.
I just say that I haven't found my skinny Dennis. That's all, man. I'm hoping that through this whole podcast, maybe I'll be united with him or her.
Hey, I want to play bass for you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny how people do that, and then it's like a few days later they call back and they're like, man, I think I know a guy. And I'm like, oh, okay, but I will tell you that it's a lot to ask of any bass player to know you before you know what you're going to do before across the whole body of work that's in several different keys. Yeah. Let me just, as a brief aside, let me just tell you this funny story about a mandolin player that came out to hang out with me. And it's like an inside joke between my fiddle player and I, this like, why not sort of, voice inflection, because we had a gig. It was one of those 4-hour gigs, and mandolin player came and sat in with me. He brought one mandolin, which is great, but Chisholm carries 3 fiddles, man. And because he tunes one down a half step, one up a half step. Yep. And so I go through all these different keys, and I was like, oh, so brother, you got a capo on you or something for that Mandy? And he's like, no. He's like, you got a second one? I'm like, no. I'm like, okay, and Chisholm's like, well, I brought a mandolin with me. If you want to use a second one, you tune a half step down, no worries, dude. There you go. And he's like, no, it's cool. I'm a purist. I can do it. And I'm like, great, cool, awesome. Oh, okay. But I was like, you're gonna learn today, because I'm like, we're starting out in E flat, bro. And we're going to B flat minor, and then we're going to E flat or E flat major, and then we're going to switch things up to a C sharp for a little bit. It's like the whole set list is organized by ascending keys in a way. So anyway, G sharp, oh, okay, C sharp, all right.
I got it.
And at the end
plays the same thing every time.
At the end of the night, man, like 4 hours of this, just like calling out obscure keys, right, to a guy who doesn't have a capo, man.
He's like, that doesn't even exist.
I'm like G sharp. He's like, why not?
That's the best.
Why not?
Why not? So anyway, so I just it's hard to find somebody to know when you have a bunch of stuff across a bunch of keys. To know you is good, to know that. I mean, it's like, I don't even know how you can begin to ask someone that sometimes once you're 3-4 albums deep, so I mean, that's where this comes from, I guess.
I think you have commitment issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it.
No, I just think you just don't know any bass players. Well, I need to find some bass players.
I probably do.
After this podcast, no bass player is going to talk to him.
I'm just that's the whole point of this podcast, is to run all the other bass players off.
Run all the bass players away.
Because
I'm intrigued by your organizing a set list by ascending.
And he nails it too. Like Jules is an excellent stage like presence. He's awesome.
He is.
And so he just really like, I don't know how, it's like a scientific thing. I don't know how you do it, Jules.
Well, I just had this discussion a little bit ago with Jeff and Michael Blankenhorn and Michael O'Connor when I was talking about their album, how it flows, their new album that they let me listen to, which is great.
Oh, you got to hear it.
I got to hear it, dude. Yeah. But from song to song, it flows in a way that leaves that record being a listenable, re-listenable record.
Yep.
And I was asking about their methodology for that because in my mind, what you do is you ascend in keys. And if you're building a set list, you ascend in keys, but you also take into account energy levels of songs. You rate your 10 songs you're playing on a 1 to 10 level in terms of energy, and you stick strategic numbered energy songs in places that break from your key ascension in order to facilitate banter or facilitate a drop of energy so that you can facilitate a raising of energy. Like that's how I go about it. And I write out, I could show you my whole system. That's like how you make it.
I'm into this big time.
So thank you. Yeah.
My mouth is agape at the moment, but
this is how must one, I don't know. I tend to really slow my thoughts down and think about like, okay, big picture, how would you go about doing this in the most impactful, maximal sort of way? And I got off on this. What were we talking about originally with like,
how much you hate bases?
Well, hold on. I want to keep talking about it because I've done something sort of similar, but the way I do it is I have developed like these little triplets of songs, like groups of three songs.
Yeah.
Because like on band gigs, especially, you kind of want like a 2 original to 1 cover ratio.
Yeah.
So I have found that there are, and I sometimes like to do these little triplets in the same key. So like 3 songs that go together in the key of D that like do what you're talking about, where it's the dynamics of the set list and energy, but then those little triplets become modular and you can kind of
move them around.
And I know that they work because but I'm super intrigued by these.
Do you do them unbanded, Libby, with like a segue in between the songs and kind of make it one?
Yeah, so that's what we'll do is then we'll do like we just go straight into the next song, or sometimes we'll like work on a transition. So it's just kind of seamless. And that was something that really helped us when we were doing like, kind of bigger shows and stuff and trying to be like a lot more pro with what we were doing instead of like, just a bar gig or something where it would be more like a real stage show. And, we would end one song and then go straight to the other and really work on those transitions. I think that kind of polishes where you can really make a difference on a band show.
That I've heard this method before once from Jeff Canada when he and I spoke. He spoke to this. He has these 3 song groups together, and that's there. He moves them around a set list. So like if he kicks off a song on one of the start of 3, the whole band knows they're doing the 3 song set of
nice.
So that's
nice. They have
people
a little
do this,
shorthand.
Man. Yeah.
That's cool. Very cool.
But now I'm going to start doing those little groups in ascending key order and see what happens.
Oh, man.
About this.
Well, I just feel like from one song to the next, you wish to break. The problem with this method, though, Libby, is what you're going to spend a lot of time tuning after you put a capo somewhere else.
Well, and that's the other advantage to the triplets. See?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I build mine, is based on where I'm putting the capo. So if I'm I keep the capo there for a little while, or if it's going to move it up 1 or down, but I save all the taking it off for either the beginning or close to the end or somewhere in the middle. I do something similar. I have a string of songs that I usually play back to back together. Yeah. That's interesting though.
I have a lot of drop D songs too that just they end up kind of sounded same. Yeah, I know. They end up sounding kind of samey, so I try to change that up, but I love drop D. So
I have a lot of songs capoed on the 6th fret. So
yeah, you do. That's true.
Yeah.
My husband Chuck, he'll do a capo 3 G shape, then we call it the key of Chuck.
The key of Chuck. Yeah.
A lot of his songs are
you find what key you're good in and just stick with it. Yeah.
And the songs somehow like they don't, it's not like they sound samey at all. Like they're just he's also a genius.
So then, let me ask you this, Libby,
he's awesome.
While we're on the topic of like capos and stuff, man, like when you're writing and I don't know how you go about your writing process, whether you write melody and lyric first and build outward, or if you got some chords you're trying to find a melody over. But at some point in this process as a writer, you're kind of trying to find a home for that, what key you're going to put that in, right? And
last thing that I do when I finish a song is I play it in pretty much every key and see which sounds best for my voice.
Wow.
Me too.
That
Yes. That's usually why it ends up on the 6th fret. I'm just going up and up until
there it is. That's the sweet spot.
Wow. Sweet.
And because sometimes different voicings sound better. Like
that's true.
So I just try a bunch of different things. But like when I think a song is almost done, then I will, that's like the last thing I do. Because again, it's about presenting your song in the best way possible. And that means doing yourself the most favors in terms of where it fits in your voice.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And that just fits in your voice too, like for like in your style and the way you perform too, like good guitar playing or whatever. Because I can write a song in open E and then realize that I'm just not going to play those chords the same. If I can use a capo here, make it a G shape and pick it out that way. And it's just the style changes, but it's so much closer to who I am as a person, as a performer. So
where the song needs to be too.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had to relearn a bunch of mine because when I was younger, I was real into screamy stuff. And so now that I'm a grown ass man and my voice is dropped, I've had some songs that I wrote. So for instance, Jimmy, that song that I played, Until the Train Rolls Away, has a drop A down to a G and I capo the 2nd fret. And like now that I try, I can't sing it anymore in that key. So I actually learned how to play it in a D shape and I capo it in a different place. And I like kind of figured it out, kind of the finger picking arrangement. Like if it's your song, you can always find a way to arrange it like that. You can kind of just, I don't know. Songs are always, I feel like my voice is only going to get lower. So I'm going to have to figure out better and easier ways.
I will say that like these days by Jackson Browne, if you go look up any video from him as he progresses in age, the capo drops further down the guitar.
Yeah. Well, I've got those songs for sure where I'm just doing that, but
I'm going to bring that capo down.
Mine got higher. Like that was one of the things that Patterson and I did when we visited all those Redemption songs. We changed a lot of keys.
Oh, nice.
A lot of them moved up because as I became more of as I became a professional singer, to be honest, my voice, my range got a lot higher.
Nice.
And a lot stronger. And so like 10 years later, those songs fit in different places better.
I noticed that too. For the songs that I wrote, straight out of high school into college that I still play. But during the 6 years that I was a full-time musician, I found myself caping up higher. But then coming back after COVID and having COVID 5 times during the time period, my voice changed and now it started moving it back down a little bit. But my Divorce album, it's the lowest songs I've ever, like the lowest keys I've ever written my songs in. So it's quite interesting.
Hell yeah.
Experiencing that because usually I'm always doing falsetto shit. And so
you go out,
which I do on this record, but not as much. It's an intriguing journey.
I would say, man, like the more you use your voice as a muscle to develop it, that is also something that will lead you to writing. Like I always thought, like, man, can I write a song that I can't sing? Can I write a song that I can't play? Because you have to reach further in your writing than what one is capable of. It's like we know not what a body can do, so we must experiment in order to find out.
Well, I know for a fact I can write a song that I can't sing. I mean, I was stranded in my cousin's apartment one time. He kidnapped me years ago and took me up to San Marcos, and his roommate was sleeping, and so I was just playing his guitar very quietly and just singing, and I was singing kind of falsetto but not really, and then I wrote the song and I loved the song, and the next day I tried to sing it and I was like, nope, there's no way I can sing the song, and I tried all these different keys. It was not meant for me to sing.
Weird.
Hey,
so I gave it to Deborah Scott to sing.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome, man. One more thing on this whole doing something that you can't do sort of thing. I mentioned Jason Isbell as like the sort of modern sort of point to this guy as a songwriter for a lot of different things. But one thing he did recently that's very pertinent to what we're talking about is he released, I think, a Instagram video of a Bon Iver cover, and he's singing in this up falsetto, and the comments were just like just if you imagine someone with the popularity of Jason Isbell doing something that his audience feels like he probably, like some of his audience members really loved it. I was like, I don't understand what's going on, because I don't even know about.
Did it not sound good?
Well, it was
weird.
It was weird. It was questionable because I mean, I'm very, it was strange. It was strange. Thank you, Garrett. If it was strange. But damn, dude, the balls on that dude to do something like that.
Totally.
You know,
I think he got his teeth fixed too. So what he was saying is
time,
he got his teeth fixed, and he was like, "Now I can do a little bit more falsetto. Check it out." And I was like, "I mean, still awesome."
Well, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. I'm really not a fan of Van Morrison's falsetto, even though he does it on a bunch of stuff. It's just, but I don't know. Some people have a really good falsetto.
Yeah.
Prince. Speaking of Prince, going back to Prince.
Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian Wilson. Oh, God.
Well, I think we're all like admirers of albums, obviously, you know, and we all seek to sort of release the best albums that we can. And I think about, you know, going back to the Texas songwriter thing, I think about someone like Townes and the way that, like, there's so many different versions of his songs on different records, you know, and we talked about how, like, maybe there are no rules and the rules are do what feels good. But, you know, there's also like some rules that are like weird like that. Like, I mean, I've always been like, well, Townes, you got all these versions of like Waiting to Die and all these versions of Lungs, and I love them, but if I was your manager, I don't think I would have allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
You know, not only that.
Why are you letting all these different versions?
I've got multiple versions of the same songs. I've got 3 versions of Houston.
Cool.
I like that though.
Yeah.
I think, well, and I also think, Jana and I talk about music and music business all day long. She and I just have a constant text conversation going, and something we were talking about, like, you know, I make Americana country music, but I mostly listen to like kind of indie alt stuff. But which an old bandmate of mine used to make fun of me. She's like, "Why don't you make that kind of music?" And I was like, "Listen, it's like this. You know, I like all kinds of movies. I watch lots of different kinds of movies. But if I was going to make a movie, it would be like Spielbergian, Indiana Jones, Goonies type stuff, right?"
Nice.
So that's the way I feel about music. Like, I make this Americana country music that I like to do. But Jan and I were talking about like how cool it would be like to, you know, do like a country record version of a song and then go or make a record of, because my next record is going to be like full band country. It's more of the rock end of what I do.
Nice. Oh, that's right. Yes.
I'm excited about it. I'm hoping, I think that by the festival, I may be able to announce on stage who's going to produce my next record. So that's really exciting.
You have until tomorrow.
I know, until tomorrow. I'll tell you guys when we go online. But it's just not official yet. But then, you know, we were like, well, why don't we make like, wouldn't it be fun to just go make like an alternate version of all those songs with like a bunch of beat boops and synths and stuff?
Yes.
Why not? Right?
I mean, there's still songs. I mean, it's still good songs.
But it's like just a different.
It's just a different, but it's just like, if it's a good song, it's a good song, you know? Like, you know Andrew Delaney, right, Libby?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew at Swerfa was talking about Kate Klim's record. I think it's her name. And she basically plays these kind of piano ballad sort of things. She's awesome. But this was her divorce record. She told Andrew that's how she presented it. And so she presented some of the demos for him. And he was like, okay, this is cool, but what is your guilty pleasure music?
Right.
And she was like, well, I mean, if we were talking about guilty pleasure, like stuff I'd listen to that I wouldn't tell anybody. She said, the theme song from the Goonies by Cyndi Lauper. I love that song. And so because of that, Andrew Delaney made these, like, the whole album is like these roller rink, like 80s skate bops with like these very introspective, like divorce record it's freaking awesome. Like it's just, but it's just like, it was his way of like kind of getting her out of her comfort zone, but also doing something for her that felt nostalgic and felt, safe and kind of, and it made a totally different record for her. And I just think if a song's a good song, it's just the same, it just keeps going. It can be multi-interpretive. You can do it in any kind of form. I don't know.
Well, maybe for somebody like I'm not the most prolific songwriter. Like I tend to obsess over them, and so I don't churn out a bunch. I'll start and finish. Well, I'll start and not finish a lot. Pretty prolific at bad unwritten songs.
Have lots of pieces.
Yeah,
exactly. But the ones that I do finish, I feel pretty strong about. But so I do love the idea of like alt versions, and for that purpose, I mean, especially just for me, again, just not being the most prolific finisher of songs. So I don't know. Again, no rules. Let's have fun and see what happens, right?
Man, I want to say that, like, it's when you talk about like going and doing everything all beat boop, like, and going to take these songs and go and remake them, right? Like, there are certain bands that, like, I wish that like some bands that just experimented more to become something, and they stayed to one note. And then there's bands like Radiohead that just like, can y'all guys go back to the bends for just one album, please?
That's the exact band I was thinking of.
Yeah, right. So there's that stuff, right? But like, you mentioned the beat boop stuff, and it's like, man, I consider myself making like Americana, traditional country at times. I straddle a rock and roll line, but man, like, I got a dubstep thing that I don't tell people about, that I don't really associate or speak, like, but what I'm saying is that, like, I wasn't, there's a writer named Josh Rouse, Rouse.
I love Josh Rouse.
I love.
He was also big in Nashville when I was there, 02 to 05.
He was big, man. I like the Nashville record. My favorite is his 1972 album.
Me too.
I love that you know this, man. And all y'all, man, just like I've gone years saying Josh Rouse and not like Silence, But I think about what Josh Rouse does and what we expect out of him, and then all of a sudden Love in the Modern Age comes out in 2018. And what a beautiful sort of, and you just mentioned how it was a divorce record, Garrett, and like how like he was saying all these things over roller ring synthesizer stuff. And Josh Rouse kind of does something similar there, where he talks about these melancholic sort of like relationship issues over like vintage synthy sort of sounds that are almost like vaporwave stuff,
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, that's great stuff you guys are bringing up. Really cool stuff.
And also, Jules, like, I mean, if your dubstep stuff, I can't say that. I mean, if you feel like it's too far outside of what you're doing on your own, then like call it a side project, call it something else, like name it,
legitimately why I make side projects.
Right. Like, in fact, Jana, I could talk about Jana all day, but also I just played with her on Sunday. And so we spent like 4 hours in the car yakking about all this stuff. She just set up a side project for her instrumental, like synthy beat boop stuff that she didn't know what to do with. So she made up a name for it, which of course I'm blanking on right now. It's like Golden Hour. I don't know. That's her production company.
I don't remember.
It's late. Anyway, and I forgot to turn into a pumpkin, but I think that's cool. And again, another option, like make the stuff you want to make. And if it's like artistically not what you want to do, like as your Jules Taylor stuff, then make it something else.
Send it to me.
Right. And send it to me. I want to listen.
It's like on a SoundCloud, man. It's Lousy, lousy. So I can say these beats are lousy. Yeah. Nice. Anyway, but yeah,
I just want to say beep boop real quick because everyone else has.
Beep boop.
But also
that's the title of the episode.
Our episode with Ordinary Elephant, we called it Widdly Wah. Widdly Waws, because so now over this one's going to be Libby Libby Koch, Songwriter-At-Law, and the Beep Boops or something like that. So
Yes, that's awesome.
Songwriter-At-Law. That's cool.
No, I have to
man.
practice law in the morning too, so I could talk about songs all night. But
yeah, we'll let you go here shortly.
No, we won't.
Does anyone have any wrap up questions before I do my finale question?
I do, but I'll ask you at the festival.
Okay.
It's been such a joy
then.
talking to you. It's really
it's
cool.
always a joy talking to all three of you guys. I love y'all, and I'm excited to see y'all next weekend. I'm sorry, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Bring that telly.
Well, yeah, Jana's borrowing it right now, so she'll bring it. So
Is that all rosewood? Like is the whole? Oh my
the neck and everything. It's so sweet.
Does it weigh like 40 pounds?
It's not that heavy. It's not as heavy as you would think. It's actually pretty light.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we always
I'll finish my little pedal board project I have on the coffee table.
Ooh, I want to see that.
Yeah, it's very compact and therefore, like my vision is to do it on a pedal like one of those nano boards, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all mini pedals, and it's almost done, but it's all like very, very tight.
Nice. Can't wait to see it. So we always end every episode with this question. We call it the Almost Famous question because it's from the movie Almost Famous.
Nice.
It's the final question that William, the character, asks, and I've been doing this since we started the festival, yes, but also the organization. This is one of the first questions we started asking people. So, and I just love the response. It's a generic question, but the responses we get are so like beyond, and it's just so it's always exciting to see what people are going to say.
Not to put any pressure on you.
Yeah. So I'm expecting yours to be amazing. Anyway, here we go. No pressure. Libby Koch, what do you love about music?
Sorry, that's the answer from the movie.
Yeah, I think that one's copyrighted.
Oh, yeah, dang it, Cameron Crowe. I love that it consistently brings me joy in ways that pretty much nothing else can.
Yes.
Beautiful.
A short answer, but
also, can we take some time to appreciate that Libby has seen Almost Famous, unlike all of our other guests?
Yeah, more than half are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Sorry, I just
not only. Yeah,
I love that movie. It's a classic.
Yeah,
it's legitimately my favorite movie of all time for nostalgic reasons, but also
I love it
just because it's such a good movie.
Really great
Dude,
film.
the use of Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters in that movie and that scene just.
I mean, I can go on for hours on the soundtrack, but we're here to talk about Libby, and we're here to also let Libby go now so she can sleep and practice
we got to
law.
talk at some point in the future, Libby, about how everything that bleeds through your writing. At some point, like I feel like I want to know how like your law stuff bleeds through in your writing. Because it's like, if I'm trying to like
to do
I don't know, man. It's like, I mean, I feel like there's a lot there around Locke and Rousseau or something around like,
yeah, maybe like that. I feel like there's like a fundamental like sense of justice and like, I don't know.
I sniff either a second episode or maybe, like we said earlier, a workshop with Terry Klein.
Workshop would be awesome. Oh man, it'd be amazing.
So, all right, Libby, we'll let you go to sleep now.
Bye, Libby.
I mean, it's gonna be a couple hours, but I gotta wind down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will be ready to party when I get to Corpus with you guys.
All right.
I can't
get some rest tonight so you can party tomorrow. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Guys.
Can't wait to see you.
Bye, Libby.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.